and welcome to Norwaytwins. I'm Guro. This is week number 3 in our August vlog series, which is what puts the Norway in Norwaytwins. And today we are making some traditional Norwegian food, or at least one dish. It's a typical Norwegian dinner, and it's kjøttkaker med brun saus, meatballs with gravy. I have some potatoes on the stove cooking away, and now we're going to make the meatballs. What you'll need is about 200 grams of ground beef. You're gonna need 3/4 of a deciliter of milk, a pinch of salt, a pinch of pepper, some cornflour, a little bit of ground ginger, and a little bit of ground nutmeg. I'm gonna have all the ingredients into my food processor, and then we're gonna just blend that together in here. So I'll put the beef in with our milk, 1 tablespoon of cornflour, a pinch of salt. I'm not using a lot of salt just because I'm trying to stay away from a lot of salt, plus we're using salt in the gravy as well. A little bit of pepper, a little pinch of ginger, and a little bit of nutmeg. We are gonna put the lid on. I'm gonna start off slowly and then increase the speed as the ingredients blend together. And just like that, it's done. It honestly takes like 2 seconds. This is the consistency you want for your meatball dough, or whatever you like to call it. I'm gonna use one of these ice cream scoops, and I'm not gonna fill this completely because I don't want them too big. I'm just gonna put a bit like that. Try to make them the same size, just because that gives them an even cooking time. I now have my 10 meatballs, and I'm ready to start to cook them. I now put my frying pan on like medium-high heat. I've had some cooking spray in the pan so the meatballs doesn't stick, and I'm just gonna let that heat up before I start putting the meatballs in the frying pan. The meatballs are ready. They took about 3 to 4 minutes on each side, depending on your stove, so like watch them carefully before they burn. Now we're gonna start making the gravy, and here are the ingredients. 1 deciliter of milk, 2 deciliter of meat stock, 1.5 tablespoon of flour, 1.5 tablespoon of butter, a little bit of salt, and a little bit of pepper. What you're gonna do is you're gonna melt the butter in your pan. When the butter is melted, you take your flour and you whisk this together. This is gonna form a roux, which we're just gonna cook for about 30 seconds over the stove so the flour taste disappears, and then we're gonna move on to the next step. What you're gonna do is you're gonna remove the pot from the stove, and you're gonna add the milk and the beef stock gradually and just whisk that in. You put it back and you wait for it to come to a boil. When it starts boiling, it's gonna simmer for about 5 minutes, and then it's ready. To make the gravy a darker color, I'm gonna add a couple of drops of this. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know what this is in English. It's something called Sukkerkulør in Norwegian, and it doesn't add any flavor, it just makes the gravy darker. So a couple of drops, that was a lot, and then you just whisk it in. And voila! Everything is now done, and we have assembled our little meal here with some boiled potatoes, some meatballs, and then we're just gonna add the gravy. If this gravy is a little too thick for you, you can add more milk. Just taste it and make sure that every flavor is well put together. Something we Norwegians I'm definitely sure that 90% of us eat this with our meatballs, and this is tbsp, which is, I'm not sure how you say this, but it's also going to come across the screen, but lingonberry jam, right? Thank you, Google Translate. We just put it on the side like this, and the meal is done. This is a traditional Norwegian dinner, kjøttboller I brun saus. And now over to Pia and dessert.
Welcome to dessert. We are going to make eplekake. It's an apple cake. I think in America you have apple pie, but this is a little bit different. Let's just jump right in. What you'll need is 170 grams of flour, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 200 grams of butter, melted and room temperature, 200 grams of sugar, and 4 eggs, room temperature. You will also need apples. I've just used 1, but you can use as many as you want if you like a lot of apples on yours. 1 to 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, and 3 to 4 tablespoons of sugar. The first thing we are going to do is to add our butter and sugar to a big bowl and mix it together using a mixer. When the mixture gets a light color and becomes really fluffy, we are going to add the eggs. We'll add 1 egg at a time and then whisk in between each of them. When you're adding the flour and baking powder, we're going to add a little bit at a time and then fold it carefully into the batter. And it's done! Now we're going to put it into 2 tins like this. I don't have a big one. You can use one if you have one. I just have the small ones, so I'm going to use these. I'm going to butter them so the cake doesn't stick to the tin when we take it out of the oven, and I'll be right back. Before we put the apples on the cake, we are going to mix them with the cinnamon and sugar. What I do is I put cinnamon and sugar into a plastic bag, and then I'll add the apples and shake it until the apples are evenly covered with both sugar and cinnamon. The oven is preheated to 180 degrees, and now it's time to put on the apples. What I do is I just put the apple pieces down like this so that it covers the whole top. You don't have to do it in a pattern, or just put them down however you like. It's easier in a big tin, but since I just have the small one, I just have to make do with what I have and make the best of it. This will now go into the oven for around 40 to 50 minutes. You just have to keep an eye on them, and then we'll come back when they're done. My cake is ready. It was in the oven for about 40 minutes. It got high on the top here. It's supposed to be flat. I don't know why it happened, but it happened. It doesn't matter. It's gonna taste the same. So I can just cut it in half to show you, and it is light and fluffy on the inside. The apples are cooked on the outside, and it looks really, really good. Thank you so much for watching. Come back next Sunday for a new video in What Puts the Norway in Norwaytwins, and we'll see you then. Bye!